Ma'am, shall we begin or we shall wait for a few minutes?
Sheila ma'am, shall we wait or shall we start?
91, 92.
Can we wait for just 2 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It's 9:27. Yes, okay. Maybe we'll start sharp at 10 o'clock. Yes, 10 a.m. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, 9:30, 35 will begin.
Yes, sorry, 9:30. I'm sorry. Yes, 9:30. Okay. It's 9:27. We'll start in another 3 minutes. 9:30,
yes,
we'll start.
Okay.
Churen?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Jyoti.
Yes, ma'am.
I lost the video for some reason. I'm only hearing what you're talking, but I cannot see anything. Did I mess up something here or?
Maybe you must pin on HCC Rehab Science, is it, ma'am, for the video?
I did, but it's not showing up. But now it stopped, right?
Yeah, now it stopped, ma'am.
Okay, so when whoever is presenting, then I just
leave the meeting and join again. Jyoti, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
You leave and join again. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay.
Yes, sister.
Can you give the instructions meanwhile till the others could join, like yesterday, for the participants?
Good morning, dear participants. Hope you had a very fruitful session yesterday and awaiting for a blessed session today also. We pray the Lord will guide us with his eternal wisdom so that all that we learn throughout these 2 days may be executed in our intervention, in our personal and professional life. May it reach the benefit to all special children all over the globe. Kindly cooperate with the organizers. Please mute your video and audio when the sessions are on. At the end of the session, when it's time for interaction and questions, you may post your questions in the chat box and the resource persons will be very willing to clarify them with you. Like yesterday, we will have 2 photo sessions, one before we break for lunch and one at the end in the evening. Hope all of you completed and submitted your feedback and your assessment yesterday. For CRE participants, it is mandatory that you complete the feedback. Only then you will be qualified. You have to qualify with 60% for the 20 CRE points from RCI. Looking forward for enriching and enlightening sessions today. We have very eminent resource persons, Dr. Frigita Johnson, Dr. Amala Viviani Rajan, Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Ms. Pavai, Ms. Jnana Poombavai, and Dr. Lakshmi Devi. 5 interesting sessions are awaited, so kindly stay tuned and connected. With the blessings of the Almighty, we will all reap great benefits from this innovative endeavor of the PG and Research Department of Rehabilitation Science, Holy Cross College, Tiruchirappalli. Shall we begin with the prayer, sister?
Ma'am. Sheila, ma'am. Shall we begin? Okay.
Crescenta,
Crescenta, ma'am.
I'll just attend the call, Jurel.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Happy to see you. Dr. Nachiketa.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
How are you, sir?
Madam,
Happy to see you this morning.
good morning. This is Anandam. Director will be joining in. I'm just preparing this. Sir will come and join.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
an announcement from the organizing team. For those participants who are viewing through the YouTube, a feedback link will be shared in the chat box today evening after the session, and you will have to submit your feedback through that link. All the YouTube participants, yes, those who are viewing this webinar through the YouTube, the non-CRE participants, you will have to submit your feedback in the link that is shared in the chat box of the YouTube link. Yes, by today evening. Only then you will receive your certificates probably within 2 days from today. For the CRE participants, as you did yesterday, you will have to submit your feedback and assessment for today's session, and your certificates will be sent after verification. So we would need a time of 10 days. That's the maximum. We will try to send you the certificates as early as possible. This is for the CRE participants. Sister, can we begin? Crescenta, Sheila, ma'am.
Yes, Turin, please start.
Thanking the Lord for all the blessings of yesterday, let us all think of His benevolence and join in unison through this prayer. Almighty and gracious Heavenly Father, we glorify and magnify your holy name as we begin this new day. Lord, your mercies are new every day, and you fill us with your goodness all through our life. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Fill us with your divine spirit so that we may be renewed in our strength and wisdom. Lord, you have blessed all our efforts and you crown us with success. we surrender each one of us into your providential care. Lord, be with us throughout this day, and we pray for the well-being of each and everyone connected with us through this international FDP webinar, and all those who have contributed to the successful conduct of this program. We make this prayer in your mighty name and give thanks to God and glory to God who gives us the victory in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Shall we begin with the first session?
Yes. Yes, student.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So the first session of today is moderated by me, Dr. A. Turin Martina, Associate Professor of Rehabilitation Science, and the resource person is Dr. Frigitta Johnson. You can pin on the name Turin Martina. A very good morning, dear friends and participants. It is with immense pleasure I introduce to you the resource person of today's first session, Dr. Frigitta Johnson. My dear friend and college mate, we have journeyed together for some time during our school days, and later our relationship got renewed as college friends of the first integrated MRSC batch. We both were close competitors in our academic performance, but a happy and healthy competition always that enabled both of us to grow. She has also a decade of rich experience in public relations and human resources. The then Frigitta Frederick, today's Frigitta Johnson, has her doctorate in special education from Clemson University, South Carolina, US. She currently teaches graduate students at the same university. Her research interest focuses on academic and technology-based intervention for students with high incidence disabilities. She has, to her credit, many national and international publications and is a member of several professional organizations and a reviewer of conference proposals and journal articles. Personally, she is very hardworking, sincere, strives for perfection, and always aims higher to reach greater heights, traveling through the challenging path to explore new opportunities and be the best and unique always. Welcome, dear Frigitta. Over to you for your presentation. Kindly pin on the name Frigitta Johnson presentation.
Thank you, Turin, for your kind words. Good morning, everyone. I deem it a great honor and privilege to connect with my Rehab family again through this international webinar. Also, I take this opportunity to thank the HOD, faculty, and staff in the Department of Rehabilitation Science for giving me this opportunity to share with you on the topic supporting special education professionals and students with special needs during this challenging time. Before I start sharing my screen, I'm going to turn off my video. I also request all the participants to mute their audio and turn off their video to allow the smooth streaming of the presentation. Thank you for considering. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Friggy?
Okay.
Yes, Friggy, you can start.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So here in this first slide, you can catch a glimpse of Clemson University. I received my PhD in special education from this university. I was a full-time student for 4 years when I pursued my PhD here, and I'm fortunate to be teaching in this university. If you're considering higher education in the United States, of course, I understand the current situation, but in the future, Clemson University is a great place to study. I experienced a friendly and a homely environment at this university. Of course, Clemson is a beautiful place too. It is surrounded by several falls, lakes, and beaches within a few minutes' drive from here. Clemson University is our R1 research university. And another important fact about the Clemson University is that we are 3 times national football champions, latest being in 2018. I'm not sure how many of you know this. Football is the most popular sport in the United States, just like cricket in India. I think that is a pretty good bit of info about Clemson. Now let me get started with my presentation. A few housekeeping things before we get started. For this session, you may need a scratch sheet of paper, a pen or a pencil to take down notes. I'm going to give you a hint for your assessment questions. Be on the lookout for a don't forget emoji or smiley, whichever way you prefer to call it. I'll repeat, be on the lookout for a don't forget emoji or smiley. That's a hint for your assessment questions. So here is a brief overview of what I would be presenting in this session. First, I will share some effects of COVID on special education, then the challenges faced by special education professionals and students, then the challenges of the students, and the major crux of my presentation would focus on how to mitigate the barriers and meet the challenges with support strategies using some evidence-based practices. Finally, before I wrap up the session, I'm going to provide a quick brief about some recommendation for educators in higher education on online instruction. And I'm going to wrap up the session with some tips and key takeaways. After the presentation, I'll be ready to take some questions. So this presentation may be beneficial for professionals working with students with disabilities, especially students with high incidence disabilities, which may include students who have expressive and receptive language deficit, cognitive processing deficits, executive functioning deficits, adaptive functioning deficits, including students with learning disabilities, emotional behavioral disorders, intellectual disabilities, autism spectrum disorder, and ADHD. And this presentation may also be to a certain extent applicable to higher education educators preparing pre-service special education teachers, and of course, definitely to parents and students with special needs. We all know that COVID is a new virus which exhibits varied symptoms from mild to severe, and we know that it is contagious, no treatment available to date, and the only way to protect us is through prevention by avoiding exposure. That's scary, isn't it? So COVID has impacted the countries worldwide, and over 60% of the total student population are affected globally, which is huge. In addition, the closure of schools and educational institutions has interrupted the traditional instruction. So when we look at the community's most vulnerable population, the national education statistics in the United States indicate that around 14% of all the public school students in ages 3 to 21 receive special education services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Likewise, in India, according to the survey conducted in 2017, about 86% of children identified with special needs are enrolled in schools under the Rights to Free and Compulsory Education Act. This background info raises concerns for finding ways to meet the needs of students with disabilities. Now, let's take a few seconds to think and list how you feel during this time of COVID-19 situation. I'll give you a few seconds. I know you didn't need that few seconds to think how you feel. All of you may be able to say instantaneously how you feel. Here are some feelings that you may have or may be experiencing: uncertain, stress, anxious, fear, panic, unsure. All of these are negative feelings. So given the data on the number of children being served in special education, and with these myriads of feelings we are experiencing now, it becomes more compelling to discuss and chat about the challenges and support services for professionals working with students with special needs. Now let's take a few seconds to think about some challenges that you're currently facing. You may be a special educator, a paraprofessional like occupational therapist, speech therapist, a rehabilitation worker, social worker, administrator, professor, instructor, or a parent. What challenges are you facing currently?
Okay, ma'am.
So some of the challenges may be, how do I provide instruction to students with special needs? How do I help my students to meet their IP goals? How do I manage the behaviors? How can I provide supportive services? How do I involve and engage parents? In higher education, how do I provide instruction to my college students? How do we give them the practical clinical experience in the field? Researchers may be wondering, how do I conduct school-based research to help close the research to practice gap? How can I complete my research projects that has already been funded for the fiscal year? Several questions, isn't it? So how do we meet all of these challenges, either virtually or through maintaining social distancing? I may not have answer to all of them, but may assist you to a certain extent by providing you with some broad support strategies that may alleviate some of the issues you may be feeling. Although there are many challenges faced by professionals, the most critical challenges during this COVID-19 pandemic involve direct services to the students, such as meeting students' IP goals, providing supportive services, and managing student behaviors. So that's what we're going to mainly focus on in today's session. So in order to meet those challenges, I'm going to discuss with you about some support strategies. First, supporting students' understanding of the COVID situation. Second, teaching coping and calming skills to students. Third, maintaining routines or building and establishing new routines. Fourth, fostering appropriate social connections. Fifth, balancing work and home. I will explain each of these strategies in detail using evidence-based practices. There are a plethora of practices available, and I chose a few common ones to share with you. For those of you who are not familiar with evidence-based practices, let me give you a gist of it. Evidence-based practices are shown to be effective through rigorous research that, when implemented with fidelity, can improve outcomes for students with disabilities. Time is a constraint in an educational setting. I hope everyone agrees to this. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of trying programs or practices that has not been proven to work with students with disabilities. Of course, we all understand that each of us is unique and different than needs, and the practice may not exactly apply to all of our students the way it is. We probably may have to tweak it to provide differentiated instruction to our students. So I will be explaining the support strategies using evidence-based practices such as social narratives, task analysis, visual supports, self-management, and assistive technology. So the first strategy is supporting students' understanding of the virus and the current situation, such as closure and social distancing. We must use concrete language and terms to explain the virus and the difficult situation instead of using flowery or abstract phrasing. It may be sometimes confusing for students with disabilities to understand abstract phrases and metaphors, such as, she is under the weather, or she caught the virus. It is recommended to use direct language. For example, you can explain in clear terms that the coronavirus is a type of germ. These germs are very tiny, and when they get inside your body, they can make you sick. This may be easier for children with disabilities to understand the concept of virus and the situation better. So here is an evidence-based practices that can support students' understanding. Social narratives. Social narratives is a story that clarifies a situation using multiple formats, such as modified text, photos, pictures, maybe drawing, or the use of technology. Often students who have receptive language deficit may benefit from receiving information in multiple formats. So these narratives, they often help with understanding how to reduce the risk, provide insight into how they may be feeling, and offer assurance that those feelings are normal. So these narratives could be read to the child, like read aloud. For children who have a reading disability, it could be read to the child, or you can read with the child, like as an eco-reading. Reading it regularly across several days would be helpful. Of course, you can always modify and adjust as needed as circumstances shift. So here is a sample of social narrative. I may not have the time to read the entire text, but we'll read a couple of sentences just for you to get a grip on it. Right now, lots of people are getting sick with the virus. Doctors and leaders are working hard to keep everyone healthy. I need to help keep myself safe and healthy too. School is closed, so students and teachers can stay healthy. In this example, you see pictures that goes along with this text, and you can be creative and add pictures and photos to the narrative. So here is another example of social narratives. I'm going to read a few sentences from this narrative. Right now, there is a virus that is making people sick. Because it spreads so quickly, many schools and workplaces are closed. It is important to keep myself and others healthy right now. So I need to change some of my routines. You may have noticed the difference between these two narratives. The first one, there are several pictures, while the second one doesn't. Depending on the age and grade level of your child, you can modify and adjust the text and pictures in the narratives. So this is a social narrative for greeting people. I will again read a couple of lines from this narrative too. When I meet new people, I like to shake their hands. When I see people that I know, I like to hug them. Some people do not like to touch when they greet others. They may feel sick and do not want to share germs. So this is a narrative which has more text and limited pictures. Here is another example that supports students' understanding of respecting other person's space during this COVID situation. The first box on the left and the right show the do and the don't of people's space. You may have also noticed that this narrative has more pictures and less text. This may be beneficial for a visual learner. I'm going to give you a few seconds to look at this example. Task analysis is another evidence-based practice that helps students comprehend the virus situation and the rules governing them. Task analysis helps to break down a complex task into simple individual steps. An important daily living skill during COVID is washing hands, and this may sound very simple to us. However, for our students who have cognitive processing deficit or adaptive functioning deficit, this may be a complex task to perform without prompts. So breaking the task into several simple steps and teaching each of these simple steps several times can facilitate the student to execute the complex skill independently once they've mastered the individual steps. However, depending on the functioning level of the students, we may have to alter the number of steps. Task analysis can be used to teach any skill in order to improve social, behavior, academic, and other outcomes for students of varying ages. So here is a sample of task analysis for washing hands. Let's assume in your class you have two students, Johnny and Chris, who are functioning at different levels. Johnny, being a higher functioning kid than Chris, may require only 4 steps in place of 7 steps to learn hand washing. For Johnny, you can combine steps 1 and 2 and prompt him to turn on warm water and get his hands wet as a first step. The next step could be to get soap and rub hands for 20 seconds. Third step could be to rinse hands clean. And finally, the fourth step would be to turn water off and dry hands, which is combining the 6th and the 7th step together. So depending upon the functioning level of your students, you can modify and adjust the number of steps in task analysis. Visual supports is another evidence-based practice that uses a simple, direct way to promote student understanding of a new skill or concept. It is especially useful for a visual learner because the visual cues aid in breaking down the steps of a new skill. Also, the explanation or description of the skill is more explicit and clear when visuals are used. So here is an example of a task analysis embedded with pictures to support a better understanding of the new skill. The left side box shows the steps with clip art pictures, and the right side box shows the same steps with photos. Some students comprehend better with real images compared to clip art because they feel more connected, and communication of ideas through photos may work better for them. However, some students enjoy learning through fancy pictures, and you can modify and adjust to fit your child's needs. As I said earlier, whenever you want, you can add pictures or add more text or reduce the number of steps depending upon the requirement of your students. Because we work directly with our children, we are the best advocates for our students. No one knows our children better than us. So knowledge of our students helps in identifying the appropriate practice and the perfect format for implementation that is specific for your child. So another suggestion would be to display the visual schedule in a highly visible spot. This would allow the child to see it and practice that skill often. So here are some apps that could help create visual supports and social narratives. Some of them are free apps and some could be purchased for a reasonable price. I would recommend you to try with the free apps first. For example, First and Then is a very simple app that uses a board with photos to show that one activity must happen before the next can occur. a fantastic tool for visual learners. And the idea behind a first and then board is to encourage a child to complete an activity that they don't particularly enjoy. So now let's move on to the second support strategy, using coping and calming skills. So the second strategy is using coping and calming skills, which is a priority at this time of uncertainty. And it helps students to turn down the volume of intense emotions related to anxiety, anger, stress, etc. So if your child already has some coping skills, such as taking a frequent break, using stress balls, continue with it. If not, you can introduce coping skills when the student is calm and relaxed. Provide ample access to the coping activities so that the student knows when and how to use it. Also schedule regular times to teach coping skills to the students. So self-management is an evidence-based practice that can be used to help students track their own emotions that they encounter during COVID-19 situation. When children learn to self-monitor and self-assess, it helps them to become more independent and identify when the calming strategies are required. We can't expect our children to develop these self-management skills automatically and instantaneously. It doesn't happen overnight. It has to be taught to them. Explicit instruction is an empirically validated instructional approach for efficiently teaching any skill or content to students with disabilities. So when using an explicit instructional approach, we first have to model the skill to the students. So first we model and demonstrate the skill using think alouds. Next, provide guided practice where you work with the child. This means you're literally walking them through the process while providing corrective feedback and praise. Next, slowly release them to practice independently. At the same time, continue to follow up as they learn to track their own progress and positively reinforce them with rewards. Of course, review and reteaching can be done as needed. So here are some examples of calming routines that students can learn using self-management techniques. So some of the calming routines include taking 4 deep breaths, clenching fist 4 times, counting to 10. These are a few to name, and you may be knowing several others too. So if your children are already following some coping techniques, they can continue to do that. Always make sure that at the end, you are reinforcing them positively using rewards, such as tangible items, or even a verbal praise may be a really good reinforcement for them. So here is a sample of a self-monitoring checklist that would allow students to track their own behavior or emotion. Let's say you are an educator virtually connecting with your student and want the student to monitor his or her on-task behavior when he or she is working on academic activity. Using this checklist, you can instruct the child to circle the smiley face if the child was on task and a flat face if the child was off the task at the end of each of the 5 time intervals. When I say time interval, you can decide on the time duration. It may be 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes. I would always recommend starting with shorter duration and then increasing the duration of time. So when children start to self-monitor and self-assess their emotions independently, you can slowly increase the duration of time. A timer or a beeper can be used to track the time. After the 5th or the last time interval, count the number of smileys and reward the child. Mastering the skill doesn't happen overnight again. As I explained before, explicit instruction with frequent opportunities to practice should be provided before the child starts self-managing. Developing self-management skills are helpful because the ultimate goal of education is to equip students with skills that promotes independence. Exercise can be an effective coping skills. Visual supports for making exercise choices increases the accomplishment of tasks. Due to cognitive processing or adaptive functioning deficit, it may be challenging and overwhelming for some students to make open-ended choice, which means asking them to choose an activity they would like to do. This could be overwhelming for some students. So it is highly recommended to limit the number of choices for students with disabilities. For example, you may ask the child, do you want to learn a dance on YouTube or take a walk outside? Or you may ask, would you like to try yoga, play with your toys inside, or do you want to jump rope or play catch outside? So the options and the choices that you give to your children may vary depending on the situation and the children's preferences. Assistive technology is another evidence-based practice that can be effectively used with children to teach coping during this pandemic time. So assistive technology is any device or service that helps a student with a disability meet his or her IEP goals. It also improves the functional performance of children with disabilities and facilitates their participation in the general education setting. In India, the Right to Education Act is serving as a tool for inclusive education, and assistive technology can facilitate the participation of students with disabilities in the general education setting with ease. When I say assistive technology, most of us may think that it is technology, the high-tech technology. But assistive technology can range from low-tech devices to high-tech devices. These low-tech devices are very inexpensive and could be as like simple graphic organizers, pencil grips, fidget and squishy balls. And the mid-tech devices can be like talking calculators, word processing, equipments, and the high-tech could be handheld devices, the numerous apps in the iPhones. However, if you're thinking of providing these assistive technology to your children, you have to make sure that they have access to it. And you have to make sure that they have the necessary support, and you need to frequently follow up to make sure if the assistive technology is working and if it needs to be changed. So here are some technology coping apps that you may try with your children. Some are free and some are available at a reasonable cost. I'll give you a few seconds to take a look at it. So the third support strategy is maintaining and building routines. Routines increase comfort and promotes easy expression of feelings. Coping is better when routines have minimal interruptions. Especially with increased stress at this time, changed routines increase the delay in adjustment to changes. As much as possible, try to maintain previously established routines such as sleep or work routine, household chores, or daily living skills. It may also be necessary to create new routines during this time, as there are many new demands of caregivers, such as homeschooling for the first time, continuing to work in and out of homes, or caring for multiple children or family members. So when you're building new routines, it is critical to provide multiple opportunities to practice using several prompts, because transitioning to a new routine may be difficult with fewer prompts. So individuals with disabilities may need additional support, such as task analysis, to be able to take part in normal routines or complete new activities when you're building new routines. So here are some tips for creating a task analysis. First, choose a task with a definite start and end. It could be setting the table, or it could be like getting dressed, making a bed. Second, write down the steps as you do the task or as you watch another adult do the task. Third, give the steps to someone else to try to follow and make sure the steps are clear. Fourth, write the final steps on a piece of paper to guide instruction for teaching the task. If needed, you can be very creative and innovative. You can draw, take a picture for each step to post as a visual schedule for your child to reference. Finally, teach the task using the prompting strategy that fits your child best. It could be like gestures, verbal prompts, or full physical prompts. You can use any prompting strategy that fits best for your child. So this is a basic template for creating a task analysis. I'm going to give you a few seconds to look at it. So as I mentioned before, depending on the functioning level of your child, you can increase or decrease the number of steps. So here is an example of a daily schedule with visual support. This could also be used as a checklist where the child can check off in the done box after completing each task. The next is an example of a weekly schedule template. Remember, it is better to continue with normal routines. However, when you're building new routines, make sure that you build or provide multiple opportunities to practice using several prompts, because transitioning to a new routine may be difficult with fewer prompts. It's a don't forget emoji. The fourth support strategy is promoting social connections. Children with disabilities are more susceptible to social isolation and loneliness because of peer rejection, or it could be because of social awkwardness, emotional inhibition due to histories of failure, lack of ability to build and maintain peer relations. And this may be worsened by quarantine conditions. Thus, it is very important that positive social support is provided for everyone during this period, especially for individuals with disabilities. They may need more explicit facilitation to ensure that social connection continues. Second, caregivers may need to check in or follow up to ensure whether appropriate and positive social contact is continuing via text or direct messaging. Also, caregivers can build in opportunities for daily social contact with family, friends, neighbors, teachers, or others via Facetime, WhatsApp, Google Hangout, or other apps that you're familiar with. Third, make sure that you create a scheduled time to connect with others via online platform. And this may be to attend religious services. It could be to play games. It could be to participate in socially engaging activities, or even to complete online schoolwork. These ways can safely promote social interaction and stave off isolation. So you can create task analysis to teach FaceTime calling as well. So here is an example of task analysis for FaceTime calling. As you can see, the first step is to select the FaceTime app. Second step, teaching them to select who to call. Third step, wait for them to answer. Fourth, teaching them to talk with them. The children can also ask questions, teach them how to ask appropriate questions. And then finally, the final step would be to say goodbye and then end the call. So several apps can support social interaction and foster connectedness. You probably may be familiar with most of these apps: FaceTime, WhatsApp, Skype, Facebook Messenger, Zoom. These are very common apps that you can use for video chats. So the last support strategy is balancing work and home. Specifically, this strategy may be helpful for parents. Creating a good work-life balance can be overwhelming, and it may be frustrating for parents with no childcare available now. Because parents and kids are all together 24/7, in order to attend to their chores, parents may tend to allow their children to access screens more often and for longer periods of the day during this COVID time. So it's even harder for most parents to know how to put boundaries on the child's screen time. However, we must be mindful of the screen time allowed for our children and how they use them. First, it is important to adjust the screen time given to the children. In order to do that, you have to make sure not to relax and loosen all the limits entirely, because transitioning and managing things may become hard when things settle after COVID. So be specific about how much screen time is allowed. Second, provide positive rewards or reinforcement when they adhere to the scheduled screen time. Third, reinforce other than screen-related activities such as exercising, running, yard work, playing board games. Fourth, provide activity choices for your children. Children always prefer when they're given choices or options. So here are some tips to transition off screen. This is a very difficult task to do. I'm going to give you some tips. And as I said before, you know your students better, you know your children better. You are the best advocates for your children. You can modify and adjust as needed. As much as possible, try to plan for screen time in the daily schedule and make the times reasonable for your child's age. Use a timer or clock to let your child know how much screen time they have and what to expect. Try to avoid planning screen time before non-preferred activities. This is very important. For example, it might be easier to transition your child from screen time to a snack than to transition from screen time to an academic task. So here is a countdown example using a visual timer for activity transition. Using a visual timer may be helpful to see how much time remains of screen time before they will be selected to transition to off the device. Concepts related to time are fairly abstract. For example, when you say you have a few minutes, they may not be able to interpret it literally. It is easy for them to get confused and they may be wondering, is it just a second or do I have to get off in a minute? Presenting information related to time visually can assist in making the concepts more meaningful. So here are some examples of timer apps to facilitate a quick transition. Here again, the children's countdown timer, the visual timer, the stopwatch timer, they are available free of cost. You can start trying with them. And of course, there are other apps available too, timer apps that is available for a reasonable cost. Remember that relaxing or loosening all limits with screen time is not the best solution to keep your child engaging during the COVID time. However, you can adjust screen time to allow use of social apps and provide reward for using specific screen time. Remember, don't forget the emoji. Another way that you can engage your children when you attend to your home or work chores is to encourage exercise activities and allowing them to make choices. Also, posting a visual schedule of the activities near their desk or work area may prevent children from repeatedly selecting the same activity over and over again, which may lead to boredom. So I'm going to quickly review the support strategies and the evidence-based practices that I just presented. First, strategy to promote understanding of the virus and the difficult situation using concrete, simple, and clear language. Second, using coping skills to overcome emotions during this pandemic. Third, maintaining routines for easy adjustment to changes and for minimal interruptions. And if you decide to build new routines, make sure that you're providing many prompts. Fourth, fostering social connections to prevent social isolation and loneliness. Finally, balancing work life by adjusting children's screen time and reinforcing other than screen related activities. So these strategies could be effectively implemented using these evidence-based practices, such as social narratives, task analysis, visual supports, self-management, and assistive technology. And as I said, there are a plethora of evidence-based practices that is available, and these are research-based. It has shown to be working, proven to be working with students with disabilities. So if you need more evidence-based, if you want information on more evidence-based practices, I would be happy to share that with you. It is important to remember that children with special needs require special support and intervention during this COVID-19 crisis, not only because they must cope up with the unknown, but also because of abrupt changes in routines and loss of social connections. All three are important reasons for providing support services for students with special needs. So the last part of my presentation will focus on some recommendations for those teaching in higher education. Using a learning management system can be very helpful in providing online education in higher ed. So at Clemson University, we use Canvas, a learning management system. It builds a digital environment for instruction and assessment of students. So my first recommendation would be, when instruction is entirely online, we may not be able to meet the students face to face. Thus, creating a welcome message that is designed to calm the students' fears and letting them know that we are committed to their continued success is highly recommended. Also sharing with them how we intend to support them in the course and including any directions or resources that students will need to get started may be very beneficial for them. The second recommendation would be establishing clear expectations for your teaching presence. One of the most important aspects, I would say the most important aspect of any student's learning is the instructor. Students look for us to be involved in discussions, respond to questions, provide feedback and encouragement, and reach out to them when we notice they may need additional assistance. And this doesn't mean that we need to be available online 24/7. Establishing expectations and routines around their online time can help students feel more supported and engaged in our course. For example, communicating our availability to the students, scheduling online times through virtual office hours, and being available on high traffic times are essential. For example, when I schedule my office hours, I make sure that the time works for my students as well as me. I'm usually pretty flexible with my schedule and encourage my students to schedule an appointment with me ahead of time. Usually, I try to be available online between 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the mornings and 1 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which I consider as high traffic times. The third recommendation would be to organize the course content from a student's point of view. This is very essential. Online students can become confused, frustrated, or disengaged if they find it challenging to simply navigate a course learning environment. So I try to organize my course as clearly and as intuitive as possible, ensuring students have more time and cognitive resources to engage with course content and activities. Also on the home page, which is called as the landing page, I provide separate links to the syllabus, the reading materials, the lecture slides, lecture recordings, assignment, online quizzes, discussion boards to ease the transition. My fourth recommendation would be to facilitate effective instruction. In order to do that, I use different teaching styles to meet the needs of the diverse population of students. Schools and communities are becoming very diverse these days, so we have to provide differentiated instruction in the higher education as well. I use lectures that are embedded with visuals, videos, online resources, case studies, and scenarios, to name a few. And my fifth recommendation, the final recommendation, is to engage students in reading and lectures. I regularly send out announcements at the beginning of each week, and this helps me to stay connected with my students. I also have the readings and lecture slides posted prior to class, so students can review them and prepare them before they come to my class. I use response card activities, game activities like Kahoot apps, which my students always enjoy, discussion boards for peer responses, for student engagement. I also use breakout rooms in Zoom, which is an excellent way to involve students in group discussions. I know this was just a brief overview of the use of the learning management system to provide online instruction. However, I hope this information helped you to get a preview of online teaching in higher education. Remember, to manage online presence, an instructor is not required to be available online to students 24/7. But communicating availability to the students, scheduling online times, and being available on high traffic times is essential. It's a don't forget emoji. So before I wrap up my presentation, here are some quick tips and key takeaways. Stay always updated and tuned with the latest teaching and learning technology tools. That's very important during this COVID time. During this challenging time, be patient with yourself. We are all sailing in the same boat. Relax, take a deep breath to relieve stress, and say to yourself, this too shall pass. Avoid straining your eyes by limiting screen time and follow the simple exercise. Every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. This is a great exercise to avoid straining your eyes. Remember, laws were not built for this COVID-19. So wear on your thinking caps and make reasonable decisions on how best you can support the students and others around you. The fifth point, don't get overwhelmed with due dates and deadlines. Try your best to meet timelines. Prioritize and take it one day at a time. Finally, stay connected with each other and collaborate. Special education is all about collaboration, continuously collaborating with multidisciplinary team to support your students and work towards a shared goal. Above all, be considerate to others as well. So these are my quick takeaways for today's session. So here are some additional online resources for kids and teenagers. These are some resources for kids and these are some resources for teenagers. So these are some educational resources for kids. The starfall.com is a very interactive resource. It keeps the students very engaging, it's very informative, very interactive too. Children do enjoy it a lot and they learn a lot from starfall.com. And Scholastic, PBS Kids Games, National Geographic Kids, these and Math Games, these are all educational resources. And Yoga and the Learning Station are some moment resources for kids. And here are some resources for teenagers, the Khan Academy, the Scratch, and the TED Ed. These are excellent resources, educational resources for teenagers. And the Yoga Adrene and Bontamu and the Fitologists are great moment resources for teenagers. And these are my references and my contact information. And I'm ready to take questions now.
Yes, Friggy.
Okay.
That was a wonderful presentation. There are 2 questions already being posted in the chat box. Shall I just read it for you?
Oh, sure.
Sudha Parthasarathi, one of our Rehabian students, she's asked if there is any test which is available to find the type of visual or auditory learner. Can we find out if the student is a visual learner or an auditory learner? Do you have any tests for that?
Yeah, there are several tests available. I can't think it off top of my mind, but I have a list of them, which I've used when I was a special educator. It was some time back, so I can provide the resources to her. It's just like a survey question that you can read it aloud to the students for non-verbal students or non-reader students. For non-verbal students, there are some pictures that will help them by just pointing to the pictures. You will be able to understand what kind of a student they are, whether they are visual learners or auditory learners. And for students have a reading disability, you can read out the survey to them. So they are very simple questions that can be read to them. And then at the end, there is a way to calculate. And then it shows you a range within which tells that whether the child is a visual learner or auditory learner or even a kinesthetic learner. I'll be happy to share that information.
Yes, Friggy, maybe she can contact you through the mail that you have shared. There is another question where the person has asked how to help parents to switch off limited screen time at home environment for children with ADHD. How is it possible to help parents to switch off the limited screen time at the home environment for children with ADHD, possibly around 15 years of age?
Okay, for them, it's it depends upon the children. Again, for children who have mastered some coping skills or self-management skills, it would be easier to transition or switch off the screen time. But sometimes in order to do that, first you have to develop some practices for them. Teach them some self-monitoring strategies where they can self-assess themselves. Especially for students with ADHD, it might be really difficult, especially with a teenager. They may not be abiding to the rules that you have at home, especially during this COVID time. So first, we need to teach them the strategies. So like a self-monitoring strategies, how they can self-monitor them. And probably you can provide rewards and reinforcement for turning off or switching off the device that they have. So it takes some time for them to do that. So start off with using some strategies.
So Dr. Frigid, I have a question. Can I?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yes, that's Elsa, ma'am. That's Elsa, ma'am.
So congratulations, Dr. Frigita. That was a wonderful high-tech presentation from your side. My question is, see, you said for remote instruction, about remote instruction. For remote instruction, parental support is essential. How to motivate disinterested parents who have no involvement in their child's educational development? We have in India many parents who are not interested in their educational development of their children. So how to motivate such parents?
So you're talking about school level children,
School
higher
level.
education. Okay, school level
Both.
children.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, it could be done through workshops and PDs. Like you have to provide professional development, conduct workshops. And in order to do that, you have to first equip the parents and talk to them and encourage them how the information that you're going to provide to the children is going to benefit them. So in order to involve the parents should be equipped with the knowledge of the techniques that you're going to teach. So SMS, when you said that involving the parents, is it like involving the parents in helping their children at home or connecting with you as an instructor?
Helping their children at home.
Yeah. So I think like you have to start off with workshops and professional development, of course. And everything would work well if you're providing some kind of a reinforcement for them. So always provide rewards and reinforcement. It need not be always a monetary one, or it need not be a tangible one. It could be in different ways.
I have one more question. That is, some students depend totally on school for their personal and hands-on attention or learning. How to handle such children? Because many parents are facing this crisis at home right now. They want to go to school and learn. They think home is a place they need where they have to play, sleep, etc., etc. All educational aspects are handled by their teachers. They want to go to sit in a classroom and learn. How to bring about a change in them about this remote instruction?
So that's an excellent question. It's something that everybody is pondering on, trying to figure out how to do that, because during this COVID time, we are all confined to our homes. We are trying to make it, even with our kids over here, most of the instruction is online instruction. We have not started school with school closures. We are all at home. And this is something that we are all struggling with. Something that could be used is through simulations. Simulations can be used when you use Zoom or a video chat, you can provide instruction from here and you can ask the child to perform it. But of course, with that, you definitely need the parent cooperation. The involvement of the parent is very important here. Again, it takes us back to the first question, right? So it's all intervened, and to many of these questions, we do not really know the answer. We are working on so many things. We are researching. It's just like a trial and error basis. This was nothing like we couldn't have piloted with this. We have not piloted with this. We just were pushed into this situation. So each one of us are working it out to a trial and error basis too. So one thing that we have been trying, that we are working right now in our institution, is through simulations, using simulation-based things or artificial intelligence.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Many are in the waiting queue.
Yes. One last question, I suppose, since we are running out of time. This is from Shamim from Dubai. During this time of online rehabilitation program, we as an educator experience new onset behaviors with our children, which include sleep disturbances, vocal tics, anxiety, and so on. In your experience, have you come across any such behaviors? She wants to know.
Okay, definitely this is there. As I said, one of the strategy that I stressed, I think it was the fourth strategy, is maintaining the routines. Especially for our students with cognitive deficits or adaptive functioning deficits, it's very difficult for them to transition into a new routine, and it takes time. So that's why even before we transition into, like, even in school environment, even if we are considering a different routine in the classroom, even if we are considering a different activity, a different set of rules, we always let the student know ahead of time so they know what to expect. So sudden change of routine is always overwhelming for the students. So this could be a very big problem. That's why I said that you have to stick on to the main routine, but it doesn't work out all the time, especially during this COVID-19 time. So when you're building these new routines, you have to be very flexible. It takes time. You have to be patient with that. Use whatever strategy that will work for the student. It could be like self-management strategies or a visual support using visual schedules. You can do the best that you can, but it will take time when you have to transition from a regular routine to a new routine. But provide plenty of opportunities and plenty of prompts. And especially when a particular skill becomes more fluent, it becomes instantaneous. That's why we talk about multiple opportunities to practice, which is an evidence-based practice. And the more opportunities a child gets to practice, it reduces the cognitive load. So it transfers the skill from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. That's why it becomes instantaneous. So that takes a lot of time.
Yes, Vicky.
Do I?
Can we have one more question? Can we have one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Joyce wants to know, how do you impart knowledge or transfer knowledge on this COVID-19 or awareness to children or adults with visual impairment? How do you teach them? I think your presentation suffices. Use a lot of prompts. Yes, instead of visual schedules, how can they be supported? Maybe more with the auditory information, or would you like to add something?
Yeah, it could be like tactile too. Of course, if there is a visiting therapist who is visiting, or a social worker who is visiting the student, maintaining those social distancing, then tactile items can be used, of course, to provide instruction to the child. Like even with the social narratives, it can be made tactile. And auditory definitely helps. Audio recordings could be useful to them too. So tactile and auditory ways would be really helpful for them.
Yes. So that brings us to the end of the session. Yes. A word of thanks to my dear friend Rita. Yes. Before that, one small welcome to Dr. Aloka Guha. Kindly bear with me 1 minute. Yes, we are happy to have Dr. Aloka Guha with us in this international webinar, who is the former chairperson of the National Trust Act and now an inclusive education consultant. Welcome to you, ma'am, for joining us in this noble venture of the PG and Research Department of Rehabilitation Science, Holy Cross College. Thank you, Friggy, for that explicit and exemplary presentation. Your agenda outline of your presentation set the momentum, and your concern on how we feel and what were the challenges that we face were dealt in terms of support strategies using evidence-based practices. Your excellent command of language using simple vocabulary made the presentation comprehensive. Your pictorial illustrations facilitated better understanding. Every time we do a hand wash, we will surely be reminded of the beautiful task analysis you provided us with visual support. You were so good to prompt us with "don't forget emojis" to help us score full marks in our assessment. It all reflects your creative, innovative strategies and your professional expertise shared, outlining, coping, self-management skills, building and maintaining routines, promoting social connections, balancing work and home. You've shared a lot of resources which would be useful to all of us. Your recommendations for the higher education system and the summation at the end was wonderful. You've also given us beautiful and quick takeaways too. Thank you, Frigita. That was
Thank
wonderful.
you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Frigita ma'am. It was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed listening to you. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sister, we'll move on to the next presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I think Viviani ma'am is ready.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can see you smiling.
Sasi, you're ready, Sasi?
Hello?
Sasi?
Sasi.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am, I'm ready.
Yes, yes.
Okay, can we begin?
So
Yes, ma'am.
that was a good start for today with Dr. Frigita Johnson. Now we move on to the second session. The moderator for the second session of the day is Ms. Sasikala, Assistant Professor in the PG and Research Department of Rehabilitation Science. The resource person is Dr. Amala Viviani Rajan. Kindly click on the name Sasikala for the introduction of the resource person.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session of invited lecture. It's my great pleasure to introduce this session speaker, Dr. Amala Viviani Rajan, Special Education Consultant, California, USA. She is one of our illustrious alumni, completed a doctorate specializing in ADHD, the area in which she is deeply interested. She has 11 years of experience. For 7 years, Dr. Amala Viviani Rajan served as the Vice Principal of Chrysalis, School for Children with Special Needs in Chennai, where she further developed a keen interest in children with autism and ADHD. Her area of mastery includes non-verbal and verbal communication, social behavior interventions, and curriculum development. We are very happy to have such an eminent resource person for this session. Once again, I welcome Dr. Amla Viviani Rajan and dear participants. Before I handing over the session to the resource person, dear participants, type your queries in the chat box and it will be addressed at the end of the session. Over to Dr. Amala Viviani Rajan.
Thank you, Shashi ma'am. A very good morning to everyone present.
1 minute,
I feel very happy.
Viviani. 1 minute,
Yes,
Viviani. Participants,
yes.
kindly pin on Viviani presentation. Yes.
I feel very happy and blessed and thankful today. I thank my head of the department, Sister Ruth Mary, and the faculty for this chance to be on this platform today to share all my thoughts with you. Let me share my presentation. Are you able to view my presentation?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now?
No,
No.
no.
Click present now and share your PPT. Now presenting.
Yeah.
I think it is coming now, Viviani.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably taking out. So I will give everyone a few minutes, about a minute to pin on my presentation.
Yes.
I know a lot of you want to flavor my talk with your background music and kitchen tools, but I would like to go solo on this. Okay. So the topic today is parenting children with ADHD during quarantine. I live in the beautiful state of California. It has a lot of iconic spots, tourist spots, historic spots, and is very famous for the beaches. So let me dive into my presentation. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is also commonly called as ADHD. It is defined as a persistent pattern of inattention or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. It has symptoms in 2 or more settings like home, school, or work, and it negatively impacts social, academic, and occupational functioning. Most of these symptoms are present before the age of 12. This definition is the latest by DSM-5 5th edition 2013. So the subtypes of ADHD are inattentive, hyperactivity, impulsivity, or combined types. According to the 2016 parent survey by CDC in the US, the estimated number of children diagnosed with ADHD is about 6.1 million. That's about 9.4%. You can see the numbers below. And it is seen that boys are more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than girls. So what are the signs for children with ADHD? They have 3 main symptoms, that is inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. So inattentive. Children who are inattentive are children who are very easily distracted. They have a lot of trouble focusing on their work, concentrating and staying on task. Like for example, if you give them a math worksheet, when they are on the second sum, you will notice that they're not there. They're probably roaming around in the classroom, or if it is at home, they're probably in the kitchen, or they're probably on the bed. They may not listen to directions. If you give them like 2 instructions, go to the red table, pick up the blue book, they may do any one only, and they may miss out on details in the instruction. They may seem absent-minded and forgetful. Often they leave their water bottle at school, or they forget to even get on the school bus. And they may daydream a lot and stay on an activity for too long. The signs for hyperactivity are the children are fidgety, they're restless, they get very easily bored, or they have trouble sitting still or staying quiet. Like during prayer time, you will notice that they're unable to stay quiet, or during class time. They like to jump, climb, be extremely active when they're not supposed to be, like during class hours or at the lunch table. They may act in ways that disrupt others. They may rush through things and make careless mistakes. They may be restless enough that they want to quickly finish the activity. These are some of the signs, but all the children will not exhibit all of these signs. So there may be 2 or 3 more signs in one child. There may be all the 5 or 6 signs in another child. So impulsivity, children who are impulsive act before thinking. They don't think at all. They don't think of the consequences. If they see a cake on the table and it is lunchtime and they're supposed to eat lunch, they wouldn't think about lunch. They would just pick up the cake and eat it. Or if they go to a neighbor's or friend's house, they see something they like. They don't wait to ask permission. They just pick it up. So this is one sign that you will see that they don't think before they act. And they often interrupt other people when they're talking or playing. They just jump in, they push, they grab for what they want. They have difficulty standing in line, taking turns. They may do things without asking permission. They may take things that are not theirs. They may do things that are risky, like probably trying to get off a moving vehicle, or trying to open the car door when it is moving, or standing very close to the edge on the terrace. They may also have emotional reactions that are too intense, like for a simple no, they may cry for half an hour, or they may start giggling and not be able to stop. So now we are all in this phase of a quarantine, and as parents, we are all struggling. We are all struggling. We are in uncertain times. There is disruption, and we are in a state of a new normal. The new normal is being home, not hugging your grandparents, not able to visit, not able to go out. Like your family is the only people you get to see and meet and touch on a regular basis. So this is the new normal. It is so difficult being a parent at this time. And I'm sure that being a parent of a child with special needs brings challenges of its own, especially with the cancellation of schools, events, the field trips, the extra remedial classes, the dance class, the art class, or the therapy sessions. And children feel very unfamiliar with this situation. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to expect. With the regular routine changed, it is therefore very necessary for we as educators and also as parents of children with special needs to work with your child so that whatever they have been learning and whatever progress they have made over the years, the continuity stays on. because that's a lot of hard work, both on part of the parent, the teacher, and the child. The child has put in so much work. And if you let go of that and you don't maintain the routine and continuity, then all that hard work is just a waste. They go back to square one. So that's why we are going to look at what parents can do. The first thing is to maintain routine. Like all the earlier presenters emphasized on routine, schedule, consistency. This routine, not just for a child with special needs, but for all of us, it gives us direction. It tells us what to expect next. It reduces anxiety. So how can you create a routine? What do you do? So first thing is, whether it's a holiday or a school day, you're at home, I understand that, but try to have a regular time to wake up. Especially parents must make sure that the child is up on time. The breakfast is given by morning 8:30, and throughout the day, the meal times, the bath time, everything is done on time. Here, your timer, your clock is your best friend. So put it on and encourage children to look at the timer or to get up and do the next activity when it beeps. Also schedule time for other activities like learning, physical exercise, relaxation and play. Balance activities. Don't just do a lot of learning on one day and then no learning on the next day, or too much of physical activities. No, balance your activities. Like yesterday, I think Candy was talking about sandwiching activities. So the same here. Put activities that the child likes and something that the child dislikes in between two fun activities. So balance it, like do something the child likes and then do something that you want the child to do, like probably an exercise or some academic work. And have frequent breaks. We know that children with ADHD, like the signs, one of the signs is that they're unable to sit on task for a long time. So their attention span is like probably 10 to 15 or 20 minutes maximum. So give frequent breaks. The breaks don't have to be like 10-15 minutes. It can be like 3-minute breaks, 5-minute breaks. That is good enough. But have frequent breaks. And before the next day, the previous day in the evening, sit down with your child, discuss what you're going to do the next day. Come up with a short list of activities that you can do. The child also approves of, so that because they're the one who are going to do that. So we need their approval and their so that they're able to easily anticipate what is going to be done the next day, and they may even be ready to do it. And make your schedule so that it is easy and fun, and something like, you should use the SMART here. SMART technique, whether it's like, whether it's realistic, whether it's time bound, use that technique here. And I have put up a few schedules here for an example. So you can make it more fun by doing something like this, like a to-do list. And for younger kids, you can have pictures. For older kids, you can have words. So once the activity is done, the child can tick or circle. It gives a feeling of accomplishment to the child. And I'm sure this technique is not just for children with special needs. It works for everyone. So if the child with ADHD has a sibling, make 2 schedules or make a same schedule for both of them, so that they can get to tick what they have done. It gives a good reinforcement and makes the child happy. And in order to make sure that they follow the time schedule for the day, you can have a timer like this. You can make it out of paper, and you can have these hands of the hour and the minute, and you can tell them when this matches the clock on the wall, you need to eat, or when this matches the clock on the wall, you need to finish this puzzle or whatever activity the child is doing. And like I said here, you can see the good job there on the schedule. So as a parent, you can give stickers, you can give some treats, whatever, when they finish the activity. Now we are all at home. There is the dad trying to do his job the mom trying to be in the kitchen, trying to be quiet in her work, the kids trying to do their online studying, and it might be a small house, it might be a spacious one. So we need to look at the home setting, look at what and how you can use the space so well that each one has their corner. So look at the space available, make corners for learning, make corners for exercise, make a creative corner, like for art or music, make a play corner. Like for example, this is your home. You can see the hall here. You can just have a table and a chair here. So if you want a less distraction, you can probably put up a small table on the side so the child knows that he cannot move out of there. Or you can put up a curtain, or if you have like a big shelf or a cupboard that you can easily move to that corner near the wall, you can make a partition so the child doesn't get easily distracted. Try to look at your blueprint of the house and try to maybe put shuffle things around so that you are able to get a corner for the child that is not that has very less distraction. Form boundaries of personal space. Even a tent is a good idea for some reading work or independent work, or just some children are very sensitive to sounds. They may just want to be somewhere closed up. So a tent is a good idea. You can make it with a bed sheet. Just look around your home. Look around your home and look for things that you can use to form boundaries, so they get a sense of that they have their own space in the house. For that, you can also ask kids to wear their uniform if they have a school uniform or like a school clothes during the day, so they get a sense of being at school. I'm not sure if India, all the special schools are having online education as in the US, but in case the teacher is unable to come online on a Zoom call, as parents, be in touch with teachers and make sure whatever lesson plans they give or whatever activities they give, you can do it during the school time. You just make sure that 8 to 2, whatever the school time is, you make the child do it at home. Physical activity, like just as academic is important, so is physical activity. Any form of exercise like yoga, aerobics, dance, stretches, Zumba, running, jogging in place, any form of activity is a good idea. You can do alternate activities each day so that the child doesn't get bored. You could do yoga one day. The next day you could do some form of dance. Apart from exercise, most of the children with ADHD will be in need of occupational therapy. Since these therapy sessions are now would be cancelled, it is important to be in touch with your therapist on daily basis, get feedback from her on what you can do, update her on what is the how is your child, what are his or her sensory needs, what is happening with your child, how is he doing, and look for ask your therapist for ideas to convert simple activities at home that can meet the child's sensory needs. Or you can also look at what activities that can be done at home so that the child's sensory needs are fulfilled. Involve the child in a lot of day-to-day chores like washing vegetables, peeling fruits. All these help their fine motor skills and also their sensory needs, like help them to play with sand in the garden area, or maybe even plant something. Help them to ask them to knead the dough, squeeze wet clothes, tear up old letters or papers. You can do all this just at home with just whatever you have. You don't need to invest in any kind of high-end equipment. You can put up a small swing in the hall. You can just buy or have a rocking chair or a rocking horse for the child's sensory needs. You can use your own blanket to wrap up the child to calm him down. And make sure that as part of OT and as part of your day, physical activity is a regular task on the schedule that you do for the child. When possible, try to take walks if it's allowed, or try to spend time. Let an adult be with the child when the child is in the balcony or outdoor, just for some fresh air. You can also go to gonoodle.com, which has a lot of guided movement and relaxation games. Kids Bob is a YouTube channel that has a lot of fun music and dance activities that all the kids will enjoy. Let diet also be an important part of your routine. Like be careful of what the child is eating. Do not let the child eat a lot of junk food, be high on sugar just because they are home. Try to focus on healthy, natural food. Try to maintain regular meal times. A calming massage at the end of the day will help your child sleep better. Home environment. So now, since all of us are all home, there's a lot of triggers, a lot of situations during the day that causes conflict, and parents, they have to have some strategies to prevent arguments. And even with the good strategies, arguments will definitely come up, like I'm not going to do this now, or I don't want to eat this food. So for that, you can use a communication chart. Teach your child communication skills, like learning to listen to what others are saying, trying to respect others' views even if they don't agree with it, trying to use their inner voice when talking. You can use a communication chart with younger children or even older ones. Use this feelings chart for nonverbal kids, so they are able to point out to how they feel or what they need. You can use this activity needs chart for young kids who are yet to read, picture form, or you can use word form. List here, I have just given a list of activities in general. Use activities that the child likes, according to the child's needs and wants. Help them to express boredom. Have a kind of maybe a code language for them to, or a sign language for them to tell you that I'm done, I don't want this anymore. And for older kids, help them to write down what they think and how they feel. Let music be a part of your daily schedule. Let them listen to relaxing music. Parents should also have their means of staying calm. Parents can use apps such as the Insight Timer, Headspace for meditation. They can, as a family, you can do yoga asanas. You can have breathing techniques done in the morning or before going to bed. Try to have a very calm environment at home so that you can maximize the productivity of the family as a whole. Bonding. As we see on the news and TV, a lot of bonding is happening, not just as a family, as communities. So this is also a time for us to look into our family life and see and build a good communication between our family and bond together. You can do fun activities together as families. I will give you the list later. Doing activities that a child with special needs or even your other regular kids is makes them feel special, and it helps to build relationship. Use technology. Use technology to spend time with family member and friends. Try to have virtual play dates. Try to play games on Zoom like show and tell. You can do storytelling, singing and musing, tombola, bingo, Pictionary, word games. You can play online Scrabble or Ludo with your friends or peers. For younger children, you can have a puppet show. You can have some music sessions. You can have dance on Zoom calls. So use this video time as a time to cheer the family as a whole. It helps a lot, especially for the adults as well as children. Now, again, during this quarantine, everything is online. So the screen time has increased a lot for these kids because learning and work and everything has is now depending on technology. So let's set some screen time limits. Use your parental filters for search engine and devices so that there is internet safety. Keep computers at home in public areas of your house so that you can see what your child is looking at. Turn off TV and devices or darken their screens when you're not using them. Teach them, like yesterday, I think Nagi was talking about what are the stretches and exercises you can do when you're on screen time or on the learning online for a long time. One more point about screen time is try to use screen time as a family, and also use an alarm clock or stopwatch. Even for younger children, you can have an hourglass so they can see that their time is going to get done, so that it helps them to internalize and remind them 5 minutes before their screen time is going to get over, so that they are more prepared to stop at the end of 5 minutes. So I just made a list of activities that you could do at home. You can always add to this. You can at home, you can take a small box, decorate it, and you can write down all these activities and you can put it in. I do it with my daughter many times, and it makes it more fun. So you decide, like, you can in the schedule you can have a free time activity, like a time slot for that, like half an hour or 20 minutes, and you can say each of us can pick up what we want to do and do that activity. So it's like more like a surprise. You don't know what is there on the schedule on that day. It's you just pick up and you can do that activity for that particular time. Let me read it, like some craft, neighborhood nature walks, reading aloud, art projects, indoor science experiments. Adults, please be there, like role playing, dressing up, making puppets, storytelling, board games. Some of the board games are very complicated for younger children with ADHD, so you can adapt your own version of the board game, work on puzzles, interactive computer video games, hide things in the house and have a treasure hunt, involve in gardening, teach them a lot of life skills. Take this time to declutter your house, clean up, do laundry, let the children sort their clothes by color, socks, or just putting up away folded clothes. Work on learning to dress themselves, teach healthy habits like washing hands and face, combing their hair. You can ask children to put plates and set the table, to take away soiled plates and all that. You can, as I said earlier, you can involve them in the kitchen. You can do a lot of no-cook dishes. You can involve them in cleaning. Mothers, you must use this time to get your children to help you. So, and you can also teach them, for nonverbal kids, you can teach them to type on the computer. These are some of the websites: Keyboarding Without Tears, typing.com, and Typing Club, that can teach the child to type. You can also use this time to start writing letters to family members and posting them. If the child is unable to write, they could just do a artwork or a finger painting, or just scribble something, and you can post it to the grandparent. For parents, I understand that it's a very really difficult time for you. So negativity is in the air, but let positivity be your mantra. Provide lots of positive reinforcements for good behavior. Try to ignore minor behavioral issues. You can't just always be criticizing your child or trying to remedify his misbehavior. It's okay. Just let go. Just focus on good behavior, and try to not look at minor behavioral issues and make a scene out of it. Enjoy activities with your kid, and have reward system, a point system. Think out of the box, something new. Think something new. You can tell them, okay, because you did this yesterday, today you can choose what is for lunch. You can have the menu for lunch. And for younger children, you can tell them that if you finish this activity, then you can use this device, or you can play this game for a few minutes, so that they are encouraged to finish their task on hand. Let them, both parents are working, so let your child know that you're going to attend a call right now from work, so that they have to be quiet. Give them a book, or ask them to be in their tent or quiet area. Have a code language or sign to gain your child's attention without disturbing others. when other people are working or when your older child is on an online class. Make rules, and you can write them down in words, or you can put up pictures and put the rules in those areas of learning or play or exercise, and teach them the rules, and as a parent follow the rules, and um, set models, and also have consequences if rules are broken. Try to award them if they follow the rules for a and have bonus rewards. Be consistent with discipline. Today, if you tell them do not jump on the bed, tomorrow don't tell them okay, it's okay. No, be consistent with discipline. And if the mother says no, it's a no. The father, the grandparents, everybody has to say no at that particular minute. The father or the grandparent cannot come in and say it's okay, you can do it. No, that's not a good way of disciplining. If the other parent feels that they need to give the child that particular activity which the mother said no, they can do it probably after half an hour or 1 hour, but not immediately. As soon as the mother says no, the father or grandparent should not give that activity or whatever the child was asking for at that minute. And social stories are a very good technique that can be used for children with ADHD, for children with autism. I have put here some examples of a social story, like depending on what behavior you're addressing. It usually begins with my name is so and so, and I like to do this. And when I do that, what is the behavior I display, like the negative behavior? So when that negative behavior is displayed, what happens? And so, like say, when I throw things out of the window, they may break or get lost. So when and then the next line is like, when I get that feeling to do that negative behavior, what do? I try to put things back where they belong. And why do you need to do that? It is important to keep things safe. That is the reason. So this is how I have put up a few more social stories as an example, like watching good programs on TV. I'll give you a few minutes to just read that. And then this is for power cuts, which is very common in India, especially in summer. Instead of city, you can put the name of your place, and you can if the child feels very hot and starts crying, then you could say when there is no power at home, you feel hot, and during power cuts I feel very hot. You could say that when I'm angry, I then tend to cry or go and take a shower. So some kids, I know some children who try to shower 10 or 15 times a day. So for that, you can tell them to remain calm, and maybe they can just, instead of a shower, they can have a wet towel, or they can have a cold drink. So you can use these social stories to help out. Now, in a family, you have siblings, you have other adults. So as a mother or as a parent, ask them to help out. Use this time to and your family to like to declutter your home and spend time together. I understand that when you have a child with special needs, they become the focus of your entire life. No, try not to do that. Let the child is there. Yes, you have a child with special needs, but try to focus on the family as a whole. Try to give equal time to the sibling. Try to give equal time to your spouse. Also, another thing that you can do is schedule chores and grocery shopping and other activities ahead of time, so that when you're going to cook, you don't have to rush out to buy something. Especially in this COVID situation, it is important to be well planned and well prepared. And many times, because we are busy at work or attending to other chores at home, we might feel guilty. We might just switch on the TV for the child and tell him, okay, here, you just watch TV. I need to do this. I know many parents do that. I understand that you don't have a choice, but don't feel guilty about it. If you're unable to spend time, it is okay. And also understand that not every strategy works. Your teacher or the therapist may say something saying that the other child did it, but it may not work for them. Continuously work with your child. Sometimes a simple strategy may work. Something that you do with your other child may even work for this child with special needs. So don't expect every strategy to work. Don't compare your child with his peers. It is okay to be stressed. Take some me time, especially mothers. Take a me time away from kids and spouse every day, and have a 20-minute break so where you can do something you like a mandala artwork or a nice, good, long bath. So understand that you're not alone in this. Call up a sibling, call up your friend, share your fears and concerns. Stay connected. It's very important. Self-care, I'm sure yesterday you attended Beulah ma'am's lecture. So she spoke about self-care. It was one of my learning points that especially as women and at home and in the profession, we often forget to take care of ourselves. So try not to burn out. Try to be aware of your feelings and work on them. So about COVID-19, it is a very disturbing time for the child. They are unable to understand why suddenly they can't go out. They can't see their peers. They can't go to school. They cannot see their favorite teacher. They cannot hug their grandmother. They cannot celebrate their birthday. Simple things like just going to the park, being on that swing. They're not able to understand. Try to use minimal words with just the facts and try to tell them what it is about. Try to tell them what can be done to prevent the spread of COVID and explain why self-quarantine is important. I have here given a few things I thought that would work for children with ADHD. The first healthy practice that you need to do is washing hands. So sing a birthday song so that they know how long to wash. Sometimes the kids just forget and they like to play with the water and your whole tub of soap is done. So you can pick their favorite song for 20 seconds so they know that once the song, as soon as they sing for 20 seconds, it's done and they need to be done and need to wipe their hands. Wearing a face mask that covers the nose and mouth in public places. So you can practice wearing that at home. Like you can have this police robber game, or you can pretend to be Spider-Man or Batman, and you can tell them, okay, let's all wear a mask so that when they go out, they're comfortable with it and they don't want to take it off. Also teach them to avoid touching the face. You could do this with a game like a statue of freeze game, wherein here it is adapted in such a way that you tell them whoever doesn't touch your face for a minute or so is the winner. Also, when going out, you can tell the kids to put their hands in the pocket so they avoid touching their face. Cleaning, as parents, try to clean and disinfect household surfaces and items, especially those that are frequently used like electronics, countertops and doorknobs. Staying at least 6 feet or 2 meters away from other people in public places. Get a tape or a length of rope that is 6 feet long and tell them that this is the distance that you need to stay away when we go out. Let it be a game. Let them guess the distance between the TV and sofa and measure to check if it's 6 feet. Let them throw something and see if it goes past 6 feet. So just make it a game. And when you're out, have have a code word like hot or cold, so that when they're too close to strangers, you could just call out cold so they know that they have to come back to you and be in the warm zone area. These are some fun ways to help them to understand the significance of being in a quarantine and being safe. So we have come to the end of this presentation. Children with ADHD are facing a lot of changes in their life because of this pandemic. And it may all trigger some new behaviors, or it may also worsen the existing ones, or some behavior that you worked upon and was no longer there would just make a comeback, and anxiety and depression may also be there. So as a parent, it is important that you provide a very calm routine, a calm environment, encourage exercising often, and try to socialize digitally with friends and family so that the child with ADHD is able to stay focused on his activities and is able to have a good calm life and lessen anxiety. Always remember that consistency is the key and regularity is relaxing and uplifting. Thank you.
Hello, Viviani. Thank you, Dr. Viviani.
Thank
Hello.
you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Viviani, for your stimulating presentation. It was a very wonderful presentation. We have some questions. Shall we go to the questions?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You can ask.
There is one question from Menu Agarwal. I feel that parents are not very keen in having an active participation and taking initiatives to bring about desirable changes in their children, and rather depend more on the professionals. Can you please guide on how to motivate parents for the same?
Yes. The one thing that we always told parents when in our school was that don't depend on professionals. I know, yes, as a professional, I shouldn't say that, but understand that professionals are there. They're there to help you. But as a parent, it is your responsibility to take care of your child. There are many parents who are very involved. They give in 200%. They know exactly what their child is doing at home, what they need to do at what their child is doing at school and what they need to do at home. But sadly, there are also some parents who are not willing to put in that effort. What you can do is when you plan an IEP or whatever you plan, try to plan it with the parent present. It is a standard here in the US, but in India, I know that many schools don't involve parents. Try to get the parents' involvement. Ask them, like, give them a checklist of things of what needs to be done for their child, what are their goals for their child, short-term goals, long-term goals. Get the parents to think. Don't look just at the small picture. Look at the bigger picture. Look at what do you want your child to be after 15 years. Look at the big picture. Ask your parents to think about the future of their children. Especially very young parents, they don't think about adolescence or adulthood of their children. They just want their child, they're more focused on speech, walking, or whatever milestone their child needs to reach. So ask them to look at the future. When they start doing that, they realize that there's a long way ahead and they have to start giving the inputs now in order to make sure that the child is independent at adolescent age or adulthood. So you can, one thing is you can involve them in the IEP preparation, in the whatever lesson planning you're doing. Ask your parents to set long-term goals and short-term goals, goals for 1 week, goals for a month, goals for 3 months, and also give home programs. Sometimes the parents are very eager to do something, but they don't know what to do. They send the child to the school, the child is done from 8 to 3 or 4 and they come home, they don't know what to do with the child. So give them a structured home program. Give them activities for, like the schedule that I showed you now, give them activities of what can be done to strengthen what you've already been doing in the school. So give them simple worksheets. Don't make it a burden for parents that they have to sit for like an hour or 2 and make it compulsory that the child has to do that. But make it something simple and fun that as parents, they also don't feel that, oh, I have to do this. You can try that, maybe a home program and involving parents, and have constant updates and networking between parents and the school. That helps a lot when you try to give daily updates to the parents, or at least try to give weekly updates. Even small improvements in the child, notice them and write to the parent or text them. I'm sure then they will also understand that you're trying to do your best and they will get involved too.
Thank you, Dr. Viviani. Another question. In India, many families did not have technology. In this situation, how can we sensitize parents to make track training?
Sorry, to make?
To make track training.
Oh, what does she mean by that?
I think it means that they don't have any technology. So how we can sensitize parents to give training to the
To
parents?
give training. Okay. I'm sure my box of ideas in the PowerPoint would be a good start. That's what I said. Parents, you can just look at the things around your house. What are the things that you can use to help your child for academics, for sensory needs, for play, for art? Just look. You don't have to buy new or expensive stuff. You can use basic stuff at home, basic toys, traditional toys like palanguli and all that, to help the child be positively occupied at home. Is there something else that the person would like to ask regarding the question?
No.
Viviani, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Children have developed overeating habit.
Yes.
Especially when they are angry, sad, or bored, when they are depressed.
Yes.
And if the parents know, if they don't provide or meet their demand, they become troublesome. How to manage such a situation?
You could use a social story here. It is very effective. You can I think, ma'am, you saw my social story sample.
Yes.
You could write a social story a similar social story, and you can read it to them during the day. You can put it up on the wall, and every time they ask for extra food or during odd hours of the day, you can just read it to them. Initially, they are going to have a tantrum, but be consistent. Be consistent and tell them a no is a no. Use a communication chart with nonverbal children. They can choose if you feel that the child definitely needs a snack, let them choose a healthy one. You can even put a schedule for your day, the meals during the day. You can show the time clock that I had there. You can say 8:30 is breakfast. You have these two choices. And 10 o'clock is snack. 1 o'clock is lunch. 4 o'clock is your evening snack. And then dinner at 7 or 7:30. So if you put that schedule, you can tell the child to tick once they eat the breakfast. So the next tick is only at 10 o'clock. So you need to wait for another 20 minutes or another hour. It will not happen in a day. It is going to take time. And as parents, we need to be firm and consistent with our rules and make sure that everyone in the house follows it. So everybody has a regular time. And if you give them a lot of physical activity and have a regular sleep pattern, then overeating might be reduced too. Sometimes having insufficient sleep also leads to overeating and boredom also. Is that
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, Viviani.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall we go for the next question, Dr. Viviani?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Sasi ma'am, can you unmute your video? Sasi ma'am, please unmute your video and speak.
Yeah, I'm able to hear her.
Can toddlers have ADHD? Can toddlers have ADHD?
Can
toddlers have ADHD?
Toddlers, right? Children below 3 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It is possible, but I think diagnosis would be very difficult. So instead of terming it as ADHD, we can just start on early intervention and focus on probably as toddlers, you would see excessive hyperactivity and maybe impulsivity. So you can focus on early intervention. I would prefer not to label the child at the age of 1 or 3 years old. We could just wait with a lot of sensory input or occupational therapy, the child could get better. It may even be I read a recent research that says that young children or babies who don't sleep for like a good 10 to 12 hours in the night, that leads to symptoms and signs of ADHD, but it is not ADHD. So when they're young, it is a little difficult to diagnose them, and it would also be wise to wait and watch. But in the meantime, you could work on early intervention and focus on sensory needs or having an established sleep routine, giving healthy food, having a lot of activities for the kid.
Oh. Shall we go for next question?
Yes.
There is another question. Other than using screen for education, is that any other method to give education as parents get fed up of TV and mobile because of overuse during COVID-19 situation?
Yes, of course you can. You can make worksheets at home. You can, for younger kids, you can have picture worksheets depending on what grade or what level the student is. I'm sure in India, like special schools, they don't have technology. If they do, they have like one computer per school. So most of the classes are not technology based, unlike here in the US. So you could use the old method of paper and book. You can pick out magazines. You can look at your environment, what you have at home, and you can make teaching materials out of it. You don't need to have a screen as the main mode of teaching. You can use worksheets. You can also print out worksheets from online. If you find making worksheets is difficult, there are a lot of websites for math, science, or even communication charts. Everything is available online. You can just print them out and you can do it with the kid. If you want to know exactly like what type, I'm unable to, you have just mentioned education. So I'm not sure if the child is doing a regular school education or you're talking about a special education. So depending on that, you can help the child.
There are many questions in the chat box. Shall we go, sisters, with the question? There are many questions in the chat box.
Yes.
Shall we go with the question?
Sasi, there is an interesting question in the chat box.
If a child is very stubborn,
it's posted by Deepthi Gandhi.
Deepthi Gandhi.
The question is, for ADHD, sensory integration therapy is important. Do you recommend online SI therapy?
Online SI therapy is it that the therapist is online and the parent does it at home?
Yeah,
Is it what
I
they
think
need?
so. I think so.
Yes. Yes, that is definitely important because sensory need is something that has to be done every day. Sometimes for some children with severe sensory needs, you have to do it twice a day to meet their needs. You need to give them some kind of therapy. So parents can do basic techniques of occupational therapy like wrapping the blanket. They can also give them massages. They can involve them in, they can buy a small therapy ball. They can ask their therapist to give them small, simple techniques of occupational therapy that can be used at home. Hopefully, or at least in the future, all special schools should train parents to also know a few techniques, maybe not all because they can't all be done by the parent. Just a few basic massages, basic calming techniques that you can do at home, so that the child feels relieved and relaxed, and it helps them to calm down. So it is definitely important that they continue the sensory integration therapy at home too. Hopefully, if the occupational therapist is really good at what they do and they can train the parent through Zoom.
Can we go for the last question, Dr. Viviani?
hear, ma'am.
How to
I think that's the
make
last question.
understand
Yes,
about
ma'am.
Sorry.
how to make understand about COVID situation to a moderate without speech understanding level is very low.
Okay. I'm sure that since the child is nonverbal, they have some form of communication system. It may be PECs, it may be a communication chart, or it may be through technology like AVAS. They can ask the child to, they can form a special communication chart just for COVID that has the pictures on terms related to COVID, not very scientific terms, but simple terms, so that they can point to the child and say to them that this is what we are going to do now. We are being in quarantine because of this, or when we are going to go out, so you need to wear the mask, or you need to wash hands because we just got back from the park. So they can use a communication chart for that. And not just for this situation, I would encourage all parents to always have a communication chart that fits the needs of the child. Not just the chart with whatever you think it should be there, but what meets the needs of the child. Have it with you at all times of the day, whether you go out, you're at home, so that nonverbal children are able to communicate, and they're able to tell you why they are crying, or why they need to sit down, or why they need to get back home, or why they need to have a break. So it is important that you have a communication chart at home. You can also use a social story saying that right now the pandemic is there, and this is the reason we can't go out, we cannot touch surfaces because there are germs on it. If I touch them, I will get sick, I will start to cough, I will have a fever, I will have to go to the hospital. So you can have a social story. These two, the social story and communication chart, are very helpful. Not just for children with ADHD, it is helpful for children with autism and all children with nonverbal communication. So I think that would be a good start for them. If they have not yet used a communication chart, they can start with a basic chart of needs like food and water and toilet. And once the child gets the idea of, okay, this is a communication chart and I can talk to my parents with this, or I can talk to a friend with this, then you can move on to chart with COVID related pictures or words on it to help the child understand.
One last question, Dr. Viviani.
Yes.
From Nila Rajendra Kumar, how can we help ADHD students to complete time-bound games?
Yes. Many times when you have children with ADHD in the classroom, sometimes they finish the game early. And if it is probably a game like a computer game or a video game, maybe they would want to sit on it for a longer time. So as I told you, your timer is your best friend. Have a timer. Help the child to understand that when the time beeps, your time is up. And remove the game, whatever it is. Don't give them extra 5 minutes. No. Try to have a pattern. Tell them just before the timer is going to go off in like say a minute or 30 seconds, tell them in 30 seconds you have to stop. So they need to stop there. And you can use timer, or you can use a visual clock like an hourglass, or you can go to the shop, and there are so many different type of timers nowadays that are very attractive. Some have lights on them, so when it starts to blink, you know the time is up, so it doesn't distract other children. When you're in a classroom, having a timer might be difficult. If it beeps, it might disturb other children. So you can have this timer that blinks lights, so the child knows it's done. And in the initial stages, as an adult or as a teacher, you need to be there, and you need to remove the game or the whatever that they're playing from the child. You cannot expect the child, oh, okay, my timer is done, I'm going to keep it away. No, you cannot expect that initially. You need to train the child. So as soon as a timer goes off, you say, yes, now the time is done, and you close it. And you take it away. So when you do that routine, probably in the course of time, the child understands that when the beep goes on, I need to finish my activity. and always give them a little advance notice that it's going to be done, so that they have time to internalize and wind up their game, instead of just, oh, it's done, and just taking it off. Just give them like probably a minute or two ahead. You just tell them, okay, you're going to be done in another 2 minutes, so try to wind up, and they can start putting back stuff, so that when the timer goes on, they're ready.
Shall we go for one last question?
Sasi, I think we can wind up, Sasi, because the other speakers are waiting. And we are running out of time.
You can send it to your mail. Okay, we'll go for the formal note of thanks.
I think we'll be sharing the email of the resource persons, and participants can contact them for a very elaborate clarification. Yes? Sorry, Viviani.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
No problem, ma'am. No
Yes,
problem.
because the other speakers are waiting, and
Yes.
the other sessions will also be delayed. Yes? So that was
Yes,
a wonderful presentation, Viviani. And over to Sasi now.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
So we'll go for a formal vote of thanks. On behalf of organizing team, it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks. I thank Dr. Amala Vidyani Rajan for sparing her time and enlightening us with the topic, parenting children with ADHD during quarantine. Thank you, Dr. Amala Vidyani, for your interesting and thought-provoking presentation. You can see many appreciation from the chat box. It is very excellent presentation, wonderful slides. Your slide speaks a lot. Thank you, Dr. Amala Vidyani Rajan. I'm sure that all participants have taken note of your suggestions and ideas. Thank you once again, Dr. Amala Vidyani Rajan, and the participants for your active participation through the queries. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Viviani, and thank you, Ms. Sasikala.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall we move on to the next presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I think Naga ma'am is ready. Yeah,
Naga
we can
ma'am?
proceed.
Yes, student.
Ready?
Yes. The
Yes,
third session
okay.
of today is moderated by Dr. P. Nagalakshmi, Associate Professor of the PG and Research Department of Rehabilitation Science, who will be introducing the resource person of today's session, Ms. Jyoti Tirunelakandan. Yes, over to Naga ma'am. Kindly pin on the name Dr. Nagalakshmi.
Thank you, student.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me today to welcome you all for the Virtual Faculty Development Program. I am glad to welcome Mrs. Jyoti Tirunelakandan, a Special Needs Support Staff, Inclusive Education, PLASP Childcare Services, Dufferin, Peel Catholic District School Board, Ontario, Canada. She holds a postgraduate degree in Rehabilitation Science, Holy Cross College. We both studied during 84-89 in our department along with Joyce. As a classmate, I remember Jyoti as very lively, friendly, and studious in her studies. It's a great pleasure to share this platform with our Rehabian, Ms. Jyoti. Those were memorable days, and I become nostalgic of those sweet years. Jyoti specialized in speech-language pathology and serving persons with disabilities for more than 2 decades in India and Canada. Later on, she developed an interest in working with children with autism and became autism instructor therapist, working for different school boards in Canada. Her interest is to improve the inclusive education and make it affordable for everyone. She readily agreed to talk in this FDP program and share her experience on challenges and concerns for children with special needs during COVID-19. Once again, I welcome her on behalf of the college and our department. May I now request Jyoti to take over. Participants, kindly pin on the name Jyoti.
So,
Jyoti, any help you need?
can you see my screen?
Yes, Jyoti.
Can
You're
you see my
audible?
present PPT?
Yes.
No, PPT
Yeah.
is not visible, ma'am. We can see you.
Can you see now?
No, Jyoti.
No?
Okay, I need some help here then.
Present now. You click present now, then share your PPT, ma'am. Click present now.
Do you have your PPT opened, Jyoti?
I did. I'm having it open.
Yeah, then say present now. Click present now.
Okay,
And there are two windows which open. Click your PPT and then say share.
okay, no, I think I.
Can you just call your technical assistant who was there the other day?
My technical personnel are all fast asleep. Let me try them. Yeah. Okay. Just give me just bear with me. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No problem.
Just working on it. Please bear with me. எங்க இருக்கிறீங்க? Can you see my screen now?
Rajkumar, please mute your video. Rajkumar.
Can you see my screen now?
No, ma'am. Now it's
Yes.
presenting.
Yes,
Yeah,
Jyoti.
it's coming up. Yes.
Can just
Okay.
Yeah, click the slideshow.
Oh, click slideshow. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. A great thank you to your
Rajkumar,
home
sir,
technical
please mute
assistant.
your video.
That was very nice of sir to get you connected. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
for
that's
the
great.
timely help. Yes, Jyoti, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Jyoti from Canada. Thank you, Nagar, for this wonderful introduction about me. So it's more or less going to be the repetition of what the previous speakers presented. So as we are practicing physical and social distancing, we are shifting our professional and personal interactions to online, from staff meetings to social interactions, from birthday parties, graduations, everything is going on online or virtual these days. And we are using a different terms these days: Zoom, WebEx, Google Classroom, everything. These are all new terms even for us to get used to. And in this presentation, we will look at some of the challenges and opportunities presented to us as we cope to deal with the special need children's care during this pandemic. And it's going to be a repetition of what we said before. So first we start with the preschool children. The American Association for Speech and Hearing has said there is a 14% delay of services or in the assessment. And we always talk about early assessment and early intervention, which means like in the US and in Canada, by 18 months, every child is given an assessment of if the child has any disability or not. But because of the pandemic, there is a delay. And if the identification and diagnosis are delayed, naturally the intervention is also delayed. This causes anxiety for parents they have mental and emotional problems.
Excuse me, Ms. Jyoti. Below your screen, there's one line appearing, the hide icon. Just click on the hide so that your slides are not hidden.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And so coming to school age children, so the school is up since March. So, and now we are entering into we are in summer vacation now. So children are wondering why I'm not going to school. What does quarantine mean? Why can't I see my friends? Why can't I see my teachers? And all those issues. So why there is no face-to-face interactions? And it's difficult to follow the individual educational plan because of this online thing, and it's a transition from in class to online. So we all need time to settle down, and it is very difficult to track the progress the child is making. Again, we need tools to be developed for tracking online teaching, online education for children, not just special needs children, but for everybody. And children have like anxiety and uncertainty about what's going to happen. Am I going to go see my friends again? Am I going to go to school again? Am I going to go see the teachers again? A couple of weeks I saw a news on CNN, and like a police officers approach a person, a teenage boy who is wandering in a park, and all that he could say is this name, the name of the teacher and name of the school. So this is how they miss school, and this is the impact we have on them. So they want us to see, they want to come to school, they want to see their friends. And coming to behavior and sensory issues, we all have like a sensory room in our school to have breakouts and to, like, calm down and all that stuff. But this high-tech room is not available in the house. So with online education, with digital learning, this kind of issues are there. And they don't get to go play outside in the park. They don't play with their friends. So again, there is a lot of problems, behavior problems going. Coming to parents' involvement. So parents are now considered educators and entertainers. They have to work as a speech pathologists and occupational therapists, teachers, and everybody. And parent in Canada, and I'm pretty sure in all the Western countries, parents have to have utmost involvement in their child's upbringing, in their child's education, in child's therapy. I myself have conducted a lot of parent education trainings, and they have to involve themselves in the child's development. They have to be involved in the planning of the program for the child. So you can have an initial remote IEP meeting. You can have a weekly chat with the parents on how it's happening. You can have a recorded video about. You can ask the parents to record what the child is doing and send it to you. It all helps you in helping the child cope the challenges. And some of the issues are availability of technology and resources. That is a very, very strong weakness for developing countries. Here in Canada, and I'm pretty sure in the US too, children are given textbook to take home and Google Chromebook to take home. Not special need kids, even regular kids. They were given their own textbook to take home and prepare for their homework or assignments or whatever it is. They are responsible for those books, and they have to return it end of the year. I don't think this is feasible in India. And the same as iPads or Chromebooks or laptops, the school provides them with each child. Each individual child has his or her own iPad. And it is designed in a way that it also has the IEP on it. Not all children, not every special need kid is loaded with this the same activities or apps or whatever. Based on the child's IEP, each laptop or each iPad is loaded with activities. And another issue during the pandemic is financial stress. A lot of people lost their job, and parents are worried about the finances to cope with the technology requirements or resources. And also they have to look, this is not the only child they have other children to look after too. So that is causing them a lot of stress. And teamwork is also difficult. Like our kids, they need more than one person to support them: speech pathologists, OTs, physiotherapists, social workers, psychologists, everybody. So we need to have a teamwork every now and then. And because there is a school, because all the schools are closed, the teachers are worried. Like if I will be going back to school, if I have a job and they are quitting this job, so there should be an assurance that they will have their jobs when this pandemic comes to an end. And in some countries, school is more than education, because when they go to school, they get a good meal, at least one good meal for a day. So if school is closed, then they won't get the meal again. So there are so many things are challenging during this pandemic isolation. But at the same time, this lockdown situation gave rise to like a lot of opportunities to use technology to get connected with the families and special needs children and in general children. It also gave way to creatively engage children in different programs. There are different apps to engage them. It also gave way to for virtual care, like provide diagnosis and therapy sessions, and even healthcare is becoming very virtual these days. Like if I get a headache, I cannot go to see the doctor. I have to sit outside in the car and call the doctor and tell my symptoms, and then he's going to prescribe over the phone to me. That's what is happening now in Canada. And on the side, you see the picture of a Zoom class or a digital class. So first morning check-in, and then it says read to self. In a regular classroom setup, every day, like the day starts with the reading for like 10-15 minutes, and this gives time for the teacher to settle down and all the other kids to settle down. So read to self. So in an online, in a digital learning way, the parents can read to the kid, or if the kid is, it can be a word level reading, or it can be like a few sentences, or it can be a big novel, depending on the child's reading level. It can be anything. And the second thing is writing. It's like journal writing. This is typical for even in a regular classroom. Don't mistake me. This is not just for Zoom or digital learning. This is the typical schedule for any school system in Canada. And second, like journal writing. Then you have your regular academics like math and music or PED or science or whatever. And then they get the break to go to the sensory room if they're a special need kid. And then they say goodbye and then come in. So this is just a guideline of what you're going to plan in your session for a particular day. So because of this technology, we are assuring children that they are not left behind, and there is a continuity of services for them. We are not like neglecting them. And there is continuity of service being provided to them. So inclusive digital learning, how do you plan it? So we should have a universal design for digital learning or online teaching or tele-teaching, tele-practicing, whatever. There are different names now. Like American Sign Language or any sign language, we should have a universal design for that. And when you are designing the learning, you should include the diversity, human diversity. What suits the children in Canada may not be suitable for children in India. So you have to include your own cultural values, your cultural limits, your resources and technology limits in framing a digital learning program for the child. and access digital education using variety of technology resources. Like you can use cell phones, iPads, desktop, laptop, whatever resources you have. It is not limited to what you can use. And make use of free online resources. Like it's both academic and like it may not be academic, it can be fun activities too. Like the previous presenter was talking about PBS Kids, IXL, and I'm pretty sure that India has its own online resources for teaching curriculum, academics, and everything. And while planning this, you should keep in mind that you are supplementing the core curriculum. You are not doing something different from what is going to happen in the classroom. You are just supplementing what is going to happen in classroom. You are not changing entirely. And this, you can also approach the TV channels for digital learning, like the kids program. You can, because comparatively, TV is more popular, it's more found in every household than laptops or desktops. Or so you can approach the TV channels, and they can help you with the digital learning. Our Ontario government, our Canadian government is doing the same. We have approached the TV channels to help us with the digital learning. And of course, cost is the problem. So you have to be cost efficient in using digital resources, and get the help of the government or any private agencies, private companies, or celebrities, so they can help you with this cost. And while framing the digital learning, you have to follow these four things and keep in mind when you plan a digital learning program. So adapt. Again, like I told you before, you are just modifying, adapting whatever you are planning to teach in the classroom. Don't do something entirely different from, because it's going to confuse the child. So whatever you're going to, however you're going to plan, whatever you're going to do in the classroom, just do it in a different, modified way. And the second thing is tools and strategies you want to use to teach the kid, like visual schedules, first and board, timer, and social stories. They are all very helpful to help an easy transition for the child from the in-class education to online. And you need to monitor. This is a new situation for all of us. We are all learning. We are all in the same boat. So you have to monitor what you're doing. So you have to make sure that you're going in the right path. You could easily be tracked to a different thing. So you have the child's goal in your mind with the IEP, and monitor that you're following the right path. You're going in the right direction. And there is create a plan to assess the progress. So make sure the child is progressing. If the child is not progressing, you may have to go back a few steps behind and then come up with a new plan to make it easy for the child. So now this is a new term we are all hearing here and there, the new norm, the new norm, the new norm. So what is the new norm? So on the side, you see the typical classroom we are hoping to have when the school reopens in September. Physical distancing in the classroom. You can see the kids. They are not special need kids. This is a regular classroom. They are already looking at each other. They are like, they have a lot of anxiety. Why am I like away from my friend? Why is he he's having his own space there, and we cannot sit close to each other and all that. Like, you can see them, and there is no specific routine, because our Canadian government has said that we are not going to have physical outdoor activities. We are not going to have gym activities. The lunch hour is going to be shortened, and then it's like one-on-one, like 1:5, like one teacher with 5 kids and all that stuff. There are so many plannings happening. We don't know which one is going to work. And of course, use of facial mask and gloves. Our children may not like it, unless you make a special like social story and tell them. And we have asked the parents to educate on it, train on it from now onwards, make this 2 months vacation to prepare them for the new year. And we may have to use new mode of communication, because the teacher might have a mask, the teacher might have a visor covering his face, the teacher might not use like whatever the method of communication is available before, they may have to modify it. So that could be new mode of communication. And there is enhanced public health requirements in the workplace and class, frequent hand washing, sanitizing, cleaning the tables, maintaining 2 meter or 6 feet physical distancing, not more than 5 people in a closed area, all that stuff. So you have to keep talking to the kid over and over again and make the transition as easy as possible. And staggered schedules and activities. Each activity can be like not like before, maybe for less time. And one of the frequent activities we have in our schools is cooking, and that's not going to happen in the fall, in September, because again, we don't want to risk a spread of COVID. And increase vigilance to ensure children stay healthy and like safety. Like again, hand washing and facial mask, sanitizing. And our kids, they are very sensitive to, they do not like the smell of the sanitizer. They don't want to wash their hands frequently. And these are the challenges for them. And specialist support. So we have like 2 sets of professionals. The first one is a social worker, the school psychologist, school counselors. They are the one who are like do the admin part. They don't provide direct service to the kid, but they make sure the child gets all the service. And the other set of professionals, they are SLP. They are the one who provide direct service to the kid. The speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, visual education teacher, physical education teacher, teacher of deaf and hard of hearing. So this is how the new norm of the physical classroom is going to be. And somebody was asking about how to incorporate like a sensory intervention for during the pandemic time. This is a beautiful activity I just came across in my group. This boy is a special need boy, and he's given sensory activity. Like this is like a hopscotch, and then there is some scribbles on the it's driveway on the road, and then there is hopscotch, and then like alphabet jumping and all that stuff. So he has to follow the squares and then follow the loop like drawings there, and this helps in a sensory intervention for every day. Or this is one example. And the other one is go for nature walk, listen to the birds chirping, listen to the cars, listen to music. That is also sensory. Like learning doesn't have to take place inside the 4 walls. It can happen anywhere. So this is a kind of a sensory intervention. And the other sensory intervention is keep like different varieties of sensory things like leaves, cotton, pebbles, sand, and ask them to walk in each one of them, like jump into it or walk through it. And this is a kind of sensory intervention too. Now, so far we saw what the teachers and the school authorities have to do for the opening of the school. Now, this is this workplace safety and health measure guidance was given by Center for Disease Control in the US. So you see the hierarchy of controls here. At the bottom is the least effective one, which is using protective equipment like your gloves, your visors, or mask, everything. But still, it is least protective, least effective. You can still get the virus. The next level is the administrative controls, because that one is how people work. Here comes your digital learning, or maintaining physical distances and all that thing. Even still, you can get the infection. The next one is the engineering control. So it's like building hazards, putting the tables away like 2 meters away, and like putting flexi screens. Even the gyms, they are planning to have flexi screens. Hotels, they are planning to have, they already have flexi screens. So this is engineering control, but still your chances are you might get it. And the elimination and substitution is the most effective methods of controls. If you see a person, just don't feel bad to physically remove the person. Tell the person, you go home and stay home, and you can substitute his need in a different way. He doesn't have to come to the, like for example, if a child is sick, tell the parents that he doesn't have to come. We can do online teaching. So this is the control of this is hierarchy of control, like how to make the workplace safe and healthy. And this is the reopening guidelines given by, again, Center for Disease Control. So for the school board, it says the school boards have requested to, like they have given these ideas to practice when we open the school in September. So it says like we have to work with the same group of students to reduce risk. So if I see a child today, I have to see the same child over and over again, because in I don't know how it happens in India, but in Canada, where I work, I am an itinerant person. Like, so I move to different classes to help the child in an inclusive setup. This is not going to happen now. I have to work with the same kid for the whole day, and use of same support staff. If the speech pathologist is coming to help the child in the school, the same speech pathologist has to come see the same kid over and over again. Disinfecting therapy tools and devices frequently, and that is going to have an impact on our kids, because most of them doesn't like the texture of it, the smell of it, so it's going to be a challenge. And customize the service delivery model. Again, if a child doesn't like coming to school, seeing all these changes, just go for digital learning, go for online learning. If the child doesn't like digital or online learning, make the child come to school at least like every other day, or you have to customize your delivery, service delivery. And of course, use of personal protective equipment. You name it, we have it. I name it, you have it. So it's gloves, mask, everything, visors, flexi shield, everything. And of course, regular hand washing and hand sanitizing. And they also say that everybody is still in the learning stage, like we are just trying out. They say when the service, it's in a well ventilated area, like in an outside environment, chances are very less to spread the virus. So offer services outside, like curbside services. They are planning about curbside therapy and everything. And always communicate and monitor the guidelines. It's not just going to stay on the board there, but you have to communicate with the parents, with the caregivers, with the children, in many different ways, pictures, social stories, whatever it is. So communicate the guidelines. That's pretty much my presentation, and that's it. I can take the questions now. Last but not least, just give me a second here. Yeah, any questions? Hello.
Dear participants, you can post your questions in the chat box. Ms. Jyoti, questions are there in chat box. You can answer.
Okay.
Can I read for you?
Yeah, please.
From Nila Rajendra Kumar. How do you... Oh, 1 minute. how do you monitor individual education plan? Do you have a software or are you doing it manually?
In assessment, it's both informal and formal. Formal is your testing tools. It may vary from country to country. And informal is you're getting information from the parents, from the other persons who are working with the kid. So it's both formal and informal assessment.
Okay, from Anne Preeti, can you discuss the tools to track the progress of special education needs children?
We have our own design, the government authorized approved tool here. I'm pretty much sure that you have your own tools too. I can name a few. When is it from Nilato again? It's a different. I can give it.
Yeah. Can you discuss the tools to track the progress for special educational needs children?
It's a different person, Jyoti ma'am. Different person has
okay.
asked that question.
Yeah, we have our own tools, assessment tools. It's not just for special need kids, it's for everybody there. I'm pretty sure you will be having one, but I can always get back to her or him anytime.
Okay, next question, Jyoti. How to teach early intervention for children with special needs through online?
Like I told you before, parents' involvement is very important. Whatever you do, parent involvement is very important. And the first step in the early intervention is parent training. I myself have conducted many parent trainings and give them tips to how to help child. Like every day every week we give them some strategies to work with. Unless the child qualifies that strategy, we will not go further. So the parents have to do it.
Thank you, Jyoti.
Okay, I just want to clarify on that. It's not like in India that you see the therapist every day they are here. You can only see the therapist once a week. And we give the strategies to the parents, and the parents have to work it out for some reason. We cannot help it.
Okay. What is the advice that you would give for the caregivers?
Caregivers also, we have training sessions for caregivers. And when the therapist is visiting or online or in general? Naga?
Yeah, it's
in general or
just I think you can answer for both, Jyoti.
Okay, so the caregivers, they're also asked to come for training sessions. They can come with the parents too. We give that. That's a good question actually, because most of our kids spend their time with the caregivers because their moms and dads are working. So the caregivers are also trained on the strategies to work with, and each week we go with one strategy, and it's pretty much the same online too.
Okay.
Naha ma'am, there's a question in the YouTube. Shall I read it out?
Yes, sister.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you teach children with hearing impairment who are dependent on facial expressions and sign language for learning and communicating post-COVID in classroom setup?
Yeah, that's what I said in my presentation. It's going to be a combination of all communication skills, because the wiser, it's going to affect your facial expressions, your body language, everything. So it's going to be a combination of different communication methods. We still have to try it. It depends on each and every individual child. Okay, one size doesn't fit everyone here.
Sister, is there any other question, sister?
No, ma'am, only one question.
Only one question.
Yes.
Shall we wind up, sister?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Jyoti, it was very explanatory.
I think 1 minute. Shakila ma'am has asked a question. Did you read that, ma'am?
Yes, sister. Completed that.
Yeah,
How is the mode of communication modified in your place, particularly if teachers are wearing mask?
Yeah, we can have, we have in our schools called, you should be having that, I'm not very sure. We have something called smart board. Most of the things are done in the smart board. The teacher just, and even the kids, they are very well versed in smart board, more than me, I should say. So there are smart boards to help them with the communication and yeah.
There's another question, Jyoti. Naga,
Yeah.
can you read that? Rani's question.
Sorry, I
Do
can't
you
read that.
suggest?
Ma'am, can you help me, ma'am?
Yeah. Do you
Yeah, I will
suggest
read.
any specially designed mask for hearing impaired children and also children with the autism spectrum? Specially
So far,
designed
no, I
mask.
don't think so. So far, no. So I don't think we'll think about it. It's a good idea.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hope Rani will design a new mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all are in this learning transition
Rani
stage.
says
So
yes,
we
ma'am.
learn
Yeah.
from each other. We can learn from each other.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be you have to learn from the Western countries. We can learn from you too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'd just like to answer one Miss Simran Punjal, who has said that it would be good if speakers present their experience. I would just like to inform everybody that this entire presentation takes place only out of the experience of these resource persons who've been working elsewhere. And especially these question answer sessions, I request all of you to ask questions based on their experience. Thank you very much.
Can I have a few seconds, Naga?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Jyoti.
So it's just winding up. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I take this time to thank all my professors. Without you, I'm not here. Without you, I'm not here today. And so Dr. Jean Kenmore, Dr. Sheila Christopher, Dr. Elizabeth, ma'am, everybody, thank you so much. I'm here today, if at all, for you, like hard effort and work from all of you. And Naga and Joycey, you both are doing amazing. I cannot imagine. So thank you, Naga. Thank you, Joycey, for giving me an opportunity. Thank you for having a confidence on me to do this, even though we were not connected for decades. And thank you all. And I take this time to thank you all our frontline workers across the globe who are risking their life to save all of us, and also making sure that we all have food on our table, thanks to who are working in risking their life. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here again.
Thank you, ma'am. Jyoti, ma'am. Thank you for sacrificing your sleep, spending your time with us,
That's
sharing
okay.
your.
It's once in a while. Oh, yeah, once in a while.
Oh my, we have you with
Thank
us.
you. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure, sister. My pleasure.
Over to Dr. Nagalakshmi for the formal vote of thanks.
Jyoti, it was very explanatory. You have made us learn 3 A's: affordable, accessible, and available in inclusive digital learning. It was a great treat listening to you, Jyoti. The session was very lively and highly interactive. We learned a lot from your experience, and this would help us a long way. We heartily thank you for your valuable time and efforts. Your hard work has brought this good day to us. Thank you, Jyoti.
Thank you,
Over
Naga,
to
again.
Turin.
Thank you, everyone.
Over to
Yes,
Turin.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we had 3 wonderful sessions this morning. It was a great blessing to us. Yes, we've been enriched, we've been made aware, we've gained knowledge, experiential learning, participative learning, lot of interactions. Thank you, participants, for all the interactive. You keep the session very interactive, and for having stayed connected with us. A few announcements from the organizers, please. As like yesterday, 2 o'clock, we will be back for the post-lunch session. And now we have a photo session. So dear participants, you can unmute your video. Often we keep on saying mute your video and audio. Now it's time for you to mute your audio and unmute your video so that we can have a good colorful picture, a snapshot of all the participants. Yes, can that be done?
Yes, ma'am. Dharmi, are you? Dharmi,
Crescenta,
ma'am.
Juliet and Tharni.
Crescenta.
Participants,
We are informed, sister.
please unmute your video
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
for the photo session. And after the photo session, we will break for lunch, and we will be joining at 2 p.m. for the next. It will begin with the to begin by 2 p.m. The afternoon or the post-lunch session
Please mute
will commence.
your audio. Unmute your video and
Sister?
mute your audio, please.
Participants, kindly mute your audio and unmute your video.
Jayanti Kumar. Raj Kumar, please mute your audio.
Sarvi and
Roja,
Presija.
please mute your audio. Dharmi, ready?